The following program is sponsored by Friends of Life Outreach International. Coming up on Life Today, Bible teacher Beth Moore helps us own up to our fraudulent parts.
I said, what would you have done if we hadn't been? You know what he said? This is classic Keith Moore. Well, he looks up like that. I guess I'd have married my old girlfriend. I cried. You put a stake in my heart.
Learning how to be our true selves. Next.
Thank you so much for joining us on Life Today. It's that special day of the week, Wednesdays with Beth. I know I always look forward to it.
And she's teaching on our true selves. You ever wonder what that is? Maybe you like to tell somebody else what their true self is. Well, how about God showing us the truth about ourselves? I think Beth Moore's uniquely gifted. She's a fun person. You know, we consider ourselves fortunate to know her, to have been around her, to have had her dogs in our laps, to be friends. She is really sensitive to God and sensitive to what matters. And when she talks about something, it's because it does matter, and it'll matter to you. How about welcoming Beth Moore?
Genesis 32, please be seated and let's study together. All right, here's what I want to do with you guys. We are going to pick up by reading in verse 22. We're going to read about this scene where Jacob wrestles with the angel, one of the most famous scenes in all of the Old Testament. And one reason why it's still thrilling is because no theologian, no scholar, no pastor, no teacher has ever figured out exactly what is going on in those passages. But here's the deal I've got to make with you. I'm going to make a few comments, but it is not where our lesson settles. We've got to make it at some point in this series into 33. Hold me accountable to that, because it's hard not to move ahead. I got to tell you, as we get started, I want our viewers to catch up with us. Maybe they haven't been part of our series so far. And in the series, we've made 4 points together, and I want you to help me be able to get them up to speed by repeating back what they are. Number 1 is this: it's time we became a more honest version of ourselves. Number 2, we cannot walk in our full birthright as part fraud. Number 3, so important. Number 3, get on anybody but me. It says this: we're called to work with people, not just to work people. And 4 is this: we start facing up by going face down. In other words, listen, once we can just face this thing with God, we can get up and we can face a mess that is in our lives without fear, and you're going to see that all over our narrative today. We've been talking about not working people, and let me tell you, I would have been a natural-born worker. I just would have been. Anybody with a really sanguine personality that really likes a lot of people, they can also just be, just diplomatic and worky. And I especially, if I could, I would have wanted to work my husband in the worst way. Keith Moore will not be worked, and it drives me insane, and it has always driven me insane. With Keith Moore, and this is part of what God has worked in me because of him, and I cannot thank God enough for the work that he's done, because Keith cannot stand pretension. He cannot bear it. And even in our earliest days together, if he ever saw it, he would be grossed out. He would call it out every single time, which is why it means so much to me that Keith can say to me, go out there. You live the real thing. Go out there and do it. Because when he didn't see the real thing, he called it out. To Keith, an ounce of pretension is worth like a ton of manure. That to Keith It's just unbearable. He cannot stand that. Now, if you're honest with him, he'll love you forever. But if you pretend around him, he gets around people that do a lot of religious talk and are real self-righteous. I mean, like, he's up and gone. If he's even in a service where it's happening, he will get his tail up and walk out of it. It is so embarrassing. And so, listen, I've kind of known those were the rules, and it's been good for me, even though it's been frustrating to me. But something happened to me on our 25th wedding anniversary. It was like a spirit of pride came upon me. Now, you've never known any couple that would have been less expected to make it. I say continually, I'll know we made it to the next anniversary the day that we do. I praise God. He's been so faithful to us, but we have had a lot of fireworks in our marriage, just two very messed up people coming in under the same roof. And so, I've known he hates that, but something just came over me. And I mean, it was not even something I normally felt, but I just all at once just felt prideful about some things. And I thought, he's been so lucky to have me. Now, where in the world? I know better than that. I know better than that. He's just a little more introverted. He's a little more like, he would have never traveled, and he's been in lots of places of the world. He had to live way out of the box because of what he married into, and what he married into was a wreck. That's what I need you to know. But for a few minutes on our 25th wedding anniversary, I forgot that. I don't know why. And so I asked him, we took this big trip. We said our vows again. My grown daughters were my attendants. We had the most fun you can imagine. Held flowers, said our vows. I got to say it like a minute. I mean, I meant it. What I wanted to say to him that day is, I would marry you again. I would marry you all over. I don't want to have to. But I would. And so I said to him on the plane, on the way home, I just had to wreck it. On the way home, why couldn't I just made it home? On the way home in the plane, I said to him, what would we have done if we hadn't met each other? Now, what I really want to know is what he would have done. Because I wanted him to tell me. Because he tells me a lot of times. But he didn't tell me that day. It was our 25th anniversary. I wanted to remember forever. And I've told him a lot of times, too. That day, I wanted to hear it. Do you feel lucky that you got me? And listen, he could have felt cursed to have me. Many times. But suddenly, it came over me. I said, what would you have done if we hadn't met? You know what he said? This is classic Keith Moore. Well, he looks up like that. I guess I'd have married my old girlfriend. I was trying to work him. He will not be worked. I can tell you that. It's been one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And you talk about a man in a mess. He was going like, what did I say? What did I say? He said, wouldn't you have married your old boyfriend? I don't think so. I just was like devastated, just devastated. So we're getting to see this part of ourselves, that worker in us. That worker in us. Picking up at 22, the same night, Jacob arose. This is after he'd planned this whole masterful plan of, I'm going to give a big present to my brother Esau, and then he is going to be appeased. I'll throw a towel over his face where he will, and I'm talking about that metaphorically, I'm speaking. I'm going to somehow cover myself where he doesn't see the real me. I'm going to come before him with gifts so he will not kill me, because they're about to meet for the first time in 20 years. Since that vengeance was first born in their hearts over the trickery of Jacob, the little brother. And it says that same night he arose and he took his 2 wives. Everybody say one too many. His 2 female servants and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream and everything else that he had, and Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. And when the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Now, I'm just going to pause because we're just traveling through to make it to a stop in Genesis chapter 33, but you got to see this because you got to know what happened. Because when it says that he could not prevail against him, it means that he could not make him quit. My grandson Jackson is 6.5 years old, and I suppose every little boy loves to wrestle with his daddy. But Curtis, I mean, since he was a little bitty guy, I mean, I'm talking 18 months, 2 years old, he's loved to wrestle with his daddy. And he would even come to my house. He calls me, my grandmother's name is Bibby, B-I-B-B-Y, and he would come to my house and go, Bibby, wrestle me. I said, you know what, can Bibby just tickle your back? You know what I'm saying? Because I'd rather do that. I'm going to leave the wrestling to the men. But Curtis might have used this same word if somehow Jackson was in such a mood that he could not get him to quit. That he just kept, I mean, it would have gotten Curtis tickled because he'd have gone, this kid's not going to let up. Keep wrestling, even though he's been beat. Keep wrestling, keep wrestling, keep wrestling. That's the idea of what's going on here. Because we know that the angel of the Lord here, we know he was all powerful because all he had to do is touch his hip and it popped out of socket. So the whole frame of mind is here, is that he kept wrestling with him. He would not let go. He would not quit. And it was the very first honest fight Jacob had ever had. It was so odd because he's just about to face his brother, but first of all, you don't get more face-to-face with a person than when you're wrestling with them. You're not on their back. You're front to front, face to face with someone you're wrestling with, and this huge thing happens in verse 26 when it says, then he said, let me go, for the day is broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Unless you bless me. Do you hear Jacob going, I want an honest blessing here. I'm just saying, I'm not letting go because you're going to bless me. You have something that I want. I want the blessing on me. I want an honest to good blessing. And we find out in Hosea, if we don't have Hosea to help us with this passage, we miss a wonderful part of it. Because the book of Hosea describes this scene, and it says that Jacob, and I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit in my own words, is crying his eyes out. That's how we know he's not just winning here. He is wrestling with him, crying his eyes out with tears. He says to him, I'm not letting go. I'm going to hang on till you bless me. What a powerful scene. Because that's what God has promised to every single one of us, is that even in our hardest times, that if we would just hang on long enough, just hang on, the blessing will come. Somebody's wrestling with God over something. Because here's the thing, you can't wrestle with people. If you're a person of faith, if you're a child of God, you cannot wrestle greatly with the person without wrestling with your God. Because we can't separate it out. If I got a big problem with my husband, if I've got a big problem with a sister or brother in Christ, if I've got a big problem with a sibling, if I've got a big problem with a co-worker, if I'm in a big situation, then if somehow that is not also coming into my relationship with God where I'm wrestling with Him over it, somehow I am still in a very childish place where I've got everything in separate compartments. So he's going to wrestle the thing out. He's wrestling with Esau in his mind. Now he's wrestling with God over what to do with Esau and the problem of the blessing. And he's not going to let go until that blessing comes. And some of us say, you know, I went through that whole thing and the blessing never came. Baby girl, baby guy, did you let go? Did you let go before the blessing came? Because listen, in anything we struggle through, if we'll hang on long enough, I will not let go, I will not let go, I will not let go, I will not let go until this blessing comes. If we'll hang on, that blessing will come. But what happens is this, we let go. We let go. Here's the beautiful part of it, because I don't want anybody to feel condemned. Listen, I've been in a place, I've sat under teaching where I just felt more and more shamed in myself, more and more foolish, because I think I did it all wrong. I did it all wrong. But here's the God of redemption, because you can grab back on. Did you let go too soon? You know what? He's still there. Anybody? I mean, like, grab with everything you've got, grab back on. You know what, Lord? I let go over that situation, and my blessing never came. And you know what? I'm grabbing back on. Consider me grabbed back on. Because I'm going to see the blessing come out of this thing. If it is the last thing I do, I will not let go unless you bless me. I told you it'd be impossible not to teach this portion. I told you that would happen. All right. And he says in verse 27, what is your name? This is the angel of the Lord speaking to Jacob. And he said, Jacob. And you know what he's saying, because his name means heel grabber, deceiver, supplanter, trickster, and he's having to say his name. Now, you know that the angel of the Lord picked him out because of his name. He knows who he's dealing with. But he wants Jacob to own up to the fraud within him. And when he does, he will do this with every single one of us. When we own up to the fraudulent part of us, we start being renamed in the heavenlies. He said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men, and you have prevailed. And then Jacob said to him, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And right there, he blessed him. The whole narrative is about the blessing. And right there, he blessed him, verse 30. So Jacob called the place Peniel, for it means, for I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. Are you a visual person? Do you love this part in a movie where a perfect scene that has no vocabulary with it, just the music in it? It shows now that the sun is rising over the horizon. The sun rose upon Jacob as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. So this is where the big music comes in. I mean, this is the orchestra right here. And it shows Jacob walking off with his limp because he has wrestled face to face with the angel of the Lord. It is huge. And I want to tell you something. It's not just the big moment. It's the big climactic moment of the 20 years. What I want to try to convince you of over the next couple of minutes is that what has been working in Jacob from God has been working for 20 years. God's been up to something for 20 solid years with this man named Jacob. This didn't all just happen at the ford of the Jabbok. This didn't all happen from the day he left Laban. There has been something that God has been after over and over again with Jacob because, stay with me here, he gave Jacob a 20-year look in the mirror. Because with Laban, Jacob met his match. He met a man that could play a game. And what happened here that I want you to see is giving him a 20-year look in the mirror, a 20-year daily dose of his own medicine. I want you to write this down. Number 5 is this. Sometimes God brings healing through a taste of our own medicine. Sometimes, oh, it's painful, isn't it? I mean, it hurts so good, doesn't it? That one hurts so good. Sometimes God brings healing through a taste of our own medicine.
To obtain information on Beth's teaching materials and for her speaking schedule, visit us online at lifetoday.org.
Wow. I have learned, and I wouldn't say that it's an easy lesson, but I have learned the importance of appreciating pain. Pain in our physical body keeps us from disastrous consequences. Pain in our spiritual growth and progress sometimes is rejected without even by reaction rather than responding to see if perhaps the potter is shaping the clay in a very important way. Now, when I pray, Betty, and I understand pain, and I understand the process of shaping, and I have put my life in God's hand, I'm very sincere about that, I still find myself saying to him in my quiet time, squeeze easy. And then I hear my heart say, stay soft, pliable, don't resist. Father, I pray everybody that's watching will be that way. And I pray that when we meet our match or something's dealt back to us, we'll say, hey, God, what do you want to do with that? However it comes, whether filtered through your fingers or from your fingers, shape us. In Jesus' name. Anytime you want someone to pray with you, don't hesitate to ask. I want to show you someone who's got a deep concern. Sometimes people have concerns and needs, and it doesn't seem that anybody would care, or if they did care, they couldn't do anything about it. Sometimes you can do what's perfect about it. Such is the case here. Watch and listen.
This land has been ravaged by the sun, squeezing every drop from the surfaces around. But that's perfect for baking bricks. Every last bit of moisture drawn out. Preparing them is Rajni's job. In a constant battle with heat, they dig deeper, chasing a shrinking water source. This water, it too is perfect for making bricks. Tragically, it's also Rajni's drinking water, and that of her two children, Tulsi and Nandi. As a mother, you do what it takes for your children. But even still, there are limits to what you can do. Rajni's water source is one of those limits. While it's a source that builds bricks, it's tearing down the bodies of her family. And she risks losing her children. Rajni can't change her water source. But with your help, Life Outreach can. It's an opportunity to see fresh, life-giving water drawn with love for those most in need.
Boy, you know, when I see an image like that obviously older sister holding the hand of a younger sibling, I guess I just see us letting them hold our hands. And then I actually take it a step farther in my mind. I see Jesus holding her hand. I really do. I see that connection. I see a divine connections. I see connectedness. Betty, I've tried to tell people that I speak to that the world will teach you to succeed, you need connections. But the Bible teaches, Jesus taught, that we need connectedness like a healthy body. That little boy was holding on to the sister. That's important. We need to hold on to one another. And as we hold on to one another, we actually can put the arms of a mighty and loving God around a hurting world. We can do that. That's what we have been able to do for many years because people like you don't just watch and say, oh, I like your guests. I like what you talk about. I like the truths that you and Betty present. I like the opportunities and challenges that you put before us and show us that we can make a difference. I like all of that. But I'm going to tell you something. The greatest joy you'll ever experience is giving people life and expressing the love of God. When we do that, Betty, those people in those villages and communities and even nations, they are open to hear what it was that brought us there to touch them in the area of their pain. They want to know. They want to know why you cared. And I'm telling you, you talk about a fertile field of opportunity. Do you remember we told you for years when we were saving 7, 8, 9 million people's lives in emergency feeding situations that we were having an equal number each year give their lives to Christ in those same areas? Amazing. As many people as had their life saved were becoming believers. Their soul saved, their future saved. Water has an even more incredible impact than food. Don't ask me to explain it, I can't. It is also something that excites people who seem to say, boy, if you don't have that, you don't have health. This year, we've asked God, because the missionaries pointed us to the opportunity and the need, we've asked God to let us drill 500 wells. Now we have a few days left. We're asking every one of you to take a part sharing God's heart. $48, 10 people water the rest of their life. Because we drill a well, it lasts basically a lifetime. $144, could you do that? 30 people water the rest of their life. You will be holding the hands of 30 people and getting them to clean water. Could you drill a well or a part of a well? Whatever you can do, we're asking you to do it today. Father, I pray everyone watching would look to you and say, let me be your hands. Let me help in Jesus' name. Would you dial the number? If your heart's broken, you need prayer, call. You'll find someone that cares. Today, I'm asking you to call to say, I want to help someone because I care, because God cares. Dial the number, take your bank card, use it like a check, make the largest gift you can. If you want to write a check, make it to Life. You can go online, lifetoday.org, and as many people as call go online now. I think it's amazing. I learned how to turn on a computer. And Betty was proud of me when I could turn it off without unplugging it. She thought that was wonderful. Listen to me. Whatever you need to do, do it, because it's going to change people's lives. Yes, it will forever for so many. Would you do it? We have some beautiful gifts to send you to bless you because we love you. We want to thank you for helping us bless others.
Every day, millions of children are forced to make a dreadful choice. Drink filthy, polluted water filled with deadly disease or die from thirst. No child should ever be faced with this decision. The good news is there is a solution. Mission Water for Life is one of the most exciting and viable demonstrations of God's love in the world today. Suffering can end because clean water changes everything. With your gift today, we can establish and drill 500 new water wells for remote villages in over 12 different nations. Your gift of $24 will help provide clean water for 5 people. A gift of $48 will help provide for 10 people. $72 will impact 15 people. And $144 will help provide fresh, clean, disease-free water for 30 people for a lifetime. With your gift, be sure to request Majesty, an inspirational new, fully illustrated book that will help you discover the promises behind the many names of God. With your gift of $100 or more, be sure to also request the Names of God pin set, custom crafted with the various names of God and the gifts of the Spirit. Also, please prayerfully consider a gift of $1,200 to help provide water for 250 people, or a gift of $4,800 to help sponsor a complete well. And be sure to request the limited edition 50th anniversary bronze sculpture, Living Water. Please call, write, or make your secure gift online today.
I think most of you know this is our 50th year anniversary of our marriage and also ministry. This is a commemorative bronze celebrating 50 years, Living Water. We've been sharing the water of life for 50 years. We've been drilling water wells now for about 15 years. And it opens the door to give people insight about the water of life when you give them water for life, and it shows love. I hope you'll help us drill a well. I hope you'll make a substantial gift, because the challenge this year for 500 wells is big to us, and it's real big to the people who need them. So whatever you can do, we've got some gifts to bless you, as you know, but give some consideration to stepping up and drilling a well, or say, I'll give a big part toward it and pray others join me. Thanks so much for watching Life Today. Thanks for helping us share Life Today.
Tomorrow on Life Today, MMA fighter and UFC veteran Justin Wren shares his story of redemption and repurpose. Life Today is made possible by the supporters of Life Outreach International. Your gift will be used exclusively for the exempt purposes of life. The ministry features specific outreaches as examples of the programs it supports and conducts. Gifts are considered to be without restriction as to use unless explicitly stipulated by the donor. The ministry is a member of the ECFA. The following program is sponsored by Friends of Life Outreach International. Coming up, Beth Moore helps us discover our true selves.
Hurts happen, injuries happen. All of us have scars. All of us have wounds. All of us do. Life's tough. It's tough. So we've all got a limp of some kind wrestling through life on planet Earth. But we do our best to hide it. Why?
Are you hiding who you really are? Next on Life Today.
Hey, y'all look good. You look great. And I know some of you are glad we can't see you, but we welcome you Life Today. I'm James Robinson. Betty and I are thrilled to present Wednesdays with Beth. We actually refer to our Wednesdays as Wednesdays in the Word because that's what's going to happen. I want to show you something very cute.
I love that.
This is the beautiful little Christmas ornament. You say, what in the world are you doing talking about it this time of the year? Well, we want to give it to you. It's a little shoe. It's quite beautiful. And on the back of it, it's stamped Life's Christmas Shoe Project. And we give smiles and shoes for Christmas. And you're going to want to get one of these. We're giving it to those of you who will simply help us give children some shoes. And you're going to want to do that. Well, Beth is teaching on our true selves, and I think sometimes people don't know. They really don't know what they look like. And I think even, sometimes we have too high an opinion, but more than often, we may have a low opinion. Then we don't want to get honest about ourselves. Well, let's listen to Beth because I think she's going to inspire all of us. Here's Beth. Welcome.
Listen, have you ever had a revelation happen to you when you realize that what it is you find distasteful about somebody is what is in them that is in you? Yes. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. That what you resist is that it forces you to look in the mirror, that what you see in them is a seed of yourself. That's what you can't stand. And it's this glance at it. I got to tell you where this has happened to me. And because we're just being honest, this is our series. We're just like being transparent before one another. Unfortunately, I'm the only one doing all the talking. It's time for you to write me and tell me all your honesty. But okay, every now and then, God will cause me to kind of have almost an obsessive stare at a woman who, in her attempt to retain youth when youth was no longer possible, she has completely disfigured her face. I'm talking about disfiguring her face. I'm talking about when you look at somebody and think, what has happened that you can look in the mirror and you think that looks okay? I've got a very, very good dear friend who is a dermatologist, and she said, you cannot know how many times we try to say to a patient, it's not going to look good. I'm going to ask you. She said every now and then she just goes, I can't do it. You can have somebody else do it, but I can't do it, because when you do that, you honestly are not going to any longer look real. I don't mean trying to work with what you've got. I'm not talking about a little nipping and tucking here. I'm talking about a whole restructuring where somebody looks like they've got on this weird mask and they've got all these implants in their face. They no longer have any nose at all. And now, when your cheeks stick out further than your nose in your profile, something ain't right. Is somebody with me on this? But see, the Lord, I'll get almost obsessed with it. Like I can't quit looking at it. Like if it's in an airport or something, or in a restaurant or something, sometimes Keith will go, do I need to sit to the side where you can see better? Because what I know is bothering me is that I think the Holy Spirit is saying to me, you want to be careful, Beth, don't you? Because I want to, work out. I like fun clothes. I want to have cool hip hair. Where's the line? I don't know. I don't know where it is. Because if somebody argued it with me, I would say, do you color your hair? We wear makeup. Most of you guys don't. Some of you do. Where is the line? Because truly the only way you can know it in the culture that we live in is to walk in the Spirit enough to where God can say through His Holy Spirit within you, And so the Lord will constantly, when I'm in a situation and I'm looking at someone that's just a few years older than me, that has kind of gone bizarre on it, I'll hear Him say in my inner man, that what you want? You better be careful, Beth. Stay this side of the line. Lord, will I know where the line is? And so I've got to deal with my daughters. My daughters are both in their early 30s. One is 30 and one is 32, and I've got to deal with them. So this is what I want you to do. If Mommy ever crosses the line and I no longer look like a normal person, if you ever come home and I've got a small nose, and listen, I'm not talking about, I'm not dogging having a nose job. Listen, goodness knows I'd have loved to have had one at some point, but by the time I had the money to, I didn't care anymore. Does anybody know what that's like? But so I'm not dogging any of that, but I'm saying just bizarre. When somebody, is anybody, I need to see your hand if you know what I'm talking about, when it's just like bizarre, like, whoa. I mean, let me tell you something. By the time, there's this whole big thing that came out a couple of years ago, 60 is sexy. I want to tell you something. No, it's not. Pick your shirt up, because it's really not. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of good things, but no, sexy's not one of them. I can't really even tell you 50's sexy. I just can't. Because, it's not what it's about then. But we're trying to be that. It's a little gross. And so I asked am I telling y'all the truth, or am I making something up? Is this just me being sensitive, or have you seen it? And so I've made a deal with my daughters, Amanda and Melissa. I said, here's what I want you to do. If you ever look at me and go, whoa, where's our mother? I want you to say, Mother, we love you so much, but you look like an idiot. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. I need somebody. Because see, what we don't like, it's just like we have to face something that is like a Goliath size of something that is pent up inside of us. And it's scary. Now, I want to read the first 3 verses of Genesis 33. And I'm relieved and you're relieved because, listen, that was a painful few minutes we just spent, wasn't it? Was it painful to anybody besides me? I'd love to hear what you men are relating on, because there's got to be a way that relates to you guys as well. Genesis 33, 1 through 3. So here he goes walking off. We've got the sun coming up. The music's really playing loud. It's so powerful. The sun is rising. You can see the sun coming up just like purple through the clouds and through that gorgeous, gorgeous ray of sun coming up. And we see Jacob, and he's limping. And a lot of scholars will say there's no reason for us to ever think that he ever got over it. I mean, who was going to pull out his leg? You know what I'm saying? In those days, a lot of times when there was an injury, it just stayed, and it just dogged them until their death. And so in all likelihood, he always kind of had a little bit of an unstable walk. And it says, and Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming. And I love this part because it goes ahead and tells us that the 400 men, sure enough, 400 men were with him. And so here's what Jacob did. Now, we remember, those of us who were in the first half of the series together, we know that he did a lot of conniving and planning. And we're going to see how much he really brings to pass at this point. Because here's what happens. It says that he divides the children among the mothers. Here's Leah and Rachel and their children. Here's the servants with them. And he put the servants with their children in front, then Leah and her children, and Rachel and Joseph last of all. But notice something very important here. Verse 3, he himself went on, what is the next word? Ahead of them. He went before them. Do you remember over and over? Check it out. All over Genesis chapter 32. He was saying, and Jacob, he's coming behind us. Always hiding behind cushion us from the person we're not wanting to face. Have you ever needed to really face someone, and not just because it's a biblical command to take another witness, but because you just wanted protection? Take a whole group with you so that person will be nice to you. Anybody? Only this time, something's happened. Because this time, Jacob is right out front. Right out front. Because you see, once we've wrestled with God and lived through it, we can face almost anything. Almost anything. He's ready to go face him. And what I just love is he faces him. He walks on ahead of them with his limp. With his limp. And you know what occurred to me? You know what? We have all got a limp. We all do. I need you to know I have got a limp. You don't live 55 years on planet Earth unscathed. Hurts happen. Injuries happen. All of us have scars. All of us have wounds. All of us do. Life's tough. It's tough. So we've all got a limp of some kind wrestling through life on planet Earth, but we do our best to hide it. Why? Because I'm going to tell you something. Actually, we're going to see Esau run to him, and I wonder if we could make the point that when we are not so careful to hide our limp and when we want everybody to think we've got it together, we are no longer even approachable. But when they can see, I too, I've been injured. I've been hurt. I've been rejected. I've been betrayed. I have been more secure or more insecure than anybody you know. Then that frees them up to approach without their own hiding. I love it. He went ahead of them. And it says something really strange. In verse 3, it says, and he went on before them, bowing himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. So here he comes. Now, picture this, because you need to know that, I mean, there's like getting up and getting down 7 times, but there's nothing like doing that all with a fresh limp. His hip joint is pulled out. So I want you to picture the discomfort that while he's walking toward his brother Esau, he is getting down on the ground and he is bowing 7 times. Now, that's so bizarre to us. I mean, if we did that today, people would just be going like, get up. I mean, what are you doing? But in their world, it was what someone would do if they were submitting to someone else. It's how they would show, listen, I come to you as one who is greater than myself. I come to you, I present myself before you with humility. I will present myself before you as inferior to how I see you. So it'd be like somebody would do this before their king. This is something that their world understood. But here it's even more fascinating because it is the echo of Isaac's blessing way back in Genesis 27 that he thought he was giving to his firstborn son. But he gives it to Jacob instead because Jacob has tricked him and he is dressed up as his brother Esau. But listen to this. He says, may nations bow down before you and your mother's sons bow down before you. So in this demonstration, you're going to see over and over how Jacob is attempting to give back the blessing to his brother Esau. Because once the Lord got hold of him and blessed him, he did not need anything else anybody could give him. Do not miss that. Oh, I'd say so. I'd say so. And he said, you have it back. So what had been spoken, your brother will bow down before you. He knew that Jacob thought he was saying that over Esau. So Jacob says, I'll bow down. I'll bow down before my brother. And he bowed down before him 7 solid times. And it says then, but Esau, I just love this. Verse 4, but Esau ran to meet him. And he embraced him and fell on his neck. And he kissed him and they wept. What in the world? What in the world? What grace. What beauty. We don't know, was this always on Esau's mind? Did he change his mind when he saw Jacob? We have no way of knowing. I'm constantly in a situation, in a narrative, when I want to say, Lord, give me a little more than that. If a woman had written it, we'd know what they smell like. We know everything about it. We know every single detail, what they say to the person standing beside them, what did they look like, what was the expression like. But men were inspired to write this, so we're left just going like, what happened there? And I want to know, did he plan it? Why were the 400 men with him? What changed when he saw him? Why did he need the 400 men if he was just going to run and hug him? I think maybe when he saw him. Have you ever made a monster out of somebody until you saw him again? You know, you're not near the monster I made you out to be. He just ran to him. After his brother's bowing down like this, runs to him. And he just grabs him and embraces him. He falls on his neck and he just kisses him. And it says that they just begin to weep. And I don't know, I can't even think when that would have been, that I would have ever seen face to face 2 men literally just weep in one another's arms. But it would be a powerful scene. much more so. I mean, women can do that when they just go like, oh, you look precious. You look darling. I mean, we could do that, but like two men just crying their eyes out. It's so powerful what happens in this scene. It says in verse 5, and when Esau lifted up his eyes and saw the women and the children, he said, who are these with you? And Jacob said, the children whom God has graciously given to your servant. Do you hear the subservient talk? Then the servants drew near, and they and their children, and bowed down, and Leah likewise and her children and bowed down. And the last, Joseph and Rachel drew near, they bowed down. Esau saw the rest of it. He sees all his gifts now, all these servants, all these animals. He says, what do you mean by all this company that I've met? So a sweet thing. You know, I have a very close connection with women who have taken part in the Bible studies. They will say to me, you probably find this weird, but I feel like you're my friend. What they don't know that's even weirder is I feel it too. Sometimes I will feel it in advance. I'll sense that someone has Christ on them. They may not have no familiarity with the studies whatsoever, but I'll just sense the Spirit of Christ on somebody before it has ever even come up. And it's a powerful, powerful, powerful thing. And we see this so beautifully as they come together in a way that is completely unexpected. And when I meet someone, and I'll say to them, as I begin to hug them, I'll look around and I'll see their family. Now, who are these? And get down and talk to those children. Reach out and shake her husband's hand. I hug the women and I shake the men's hands. That's what was happening here. He just was looking around going, who are all of these? Who are all of these? Jacob says, they're those that God has graciously given to your servant. And he says, I love this because he says, Esau says, what do you mean by all of this? And so Jacob answers him in verse 8 and says, but I want to give them to you so that I might find favor in your sight. And Esau says something powerful in verse 9. But Esau said, I have enough, brother. Keep what you have for yourself. What an unusual thing to be said in our day of excess. When was the last time we just went, I have enough? I just have enough.
To obtain information on Beth's teaching materials and for her speaking schedule, visit us online at lifetoday.org.
I don't think we hear that very often. I think it's a give me mentality. Dear God, I pray you would really deliver us from that sense of never having enough, especially as it relates to stuff, accumulation. Lord, I pray that we'll want you to have more of us and for you to be filling us to overflowing. We thank you for Beth. In Jesus' name, we give you praise. I want to show you something that I think is going to inspire you. You know, when I opened the program, I held up a little Christmas shoe. Well, here's what we want to do with your help. And boy, when I say we want to do it, with your help, there's not a single thing that we ever do on Life Today and Life Outreach that is not something we want to do, and that we includes you. When we find a need that we believe should be met in love, we seek to meet it. But the fact is, we can't do any worthwhile thing unless you agree. And when we saw all these little dirty feet with cuts and infections all over the world, we thought, you know, many of these children never had shoes. And let's do that. And I tell you, you hold up a little shoe like that and it just touches everybody's heart. But this little kid's real important too. I want you to listen to one of our dear friends on the mission field and listen to what Tammy says about what we can do. And this is something I know it's way ahead of time, but we got to do it ahead of time because we can do something very special for Christmas. And I think there's not a single one of you watching that won't realize I can do something. Just listen.
Something that we take so for granted is wearing a pair of shoes every day. I don't think any one of us watching this right now is without a pair of shoes, but the reality is that there are hundreds of children around me at this moment that have no shoes. And I love Life Outreach for so many reasons, not just Water for Life or Rescue for Life or the food programs, but even bringing shoes to little ones. Listen, without it, they are in danger every single day. The simple things that we think about, like even just cutting your feet, walking in water that is diseased and full of bacteria, getting into a cut. I mean, they could literally lose their life. what a privilege we have to bring them a pair of shoes. Every one of these little ones is going to get a pair of shoes today. What I love is that this simple pair of shoes has become a treasure to this little girl. I love that she's holding on to it like it's the greatest gift she's ever been given. And it costs very little. For a little amount of money, we can produce thousands of shoes that could change a life, one child at a time, starting with her.
You know, Betty, you and I walked in areas that weren't even fit for you to be in with shoes on, and saw these beautiful little feet. And you remember we were in Central America, and I prayed. I saw a little girl. I guess maybe her big brown eyes reminded me of our little girls when they were her age, big brown eyes. And I prayed she'd come. She had left. I prayed that little girl come back. And I wanted to sit down and talk to her. And she came back and amazingly sat in my lap. And I just loved her. But we saw children that were in the hospital dying from diseases. They got infections from their feet. And you're holding this beautiful little Christmas
I can assure
ornament.
you there will be one on our tree this year. I love it. You know, and I think about the precious feet of children. You know, when our children were small babies, I just loved to kiss the bottom of their little feet, you know. And I look at these children, and you probably wouldn't want to kiss the bottom of their feet because so many of them do get disease from all the cuts and all the things that they have to walk through every day of their life. And I think it's so wonderful that we have the opportunity to put shoes on their feet. I look at the small size. We all like the small size. Aren't they cute? They're so cute. But I think if we can start with them this young, then they'll get to be this size without all the disease and the infection. So I hope you will join us. Put a smile on their faces. I love to see the shine on their faces, James, when they smile. It's a gift to them. They don't really realize probably at what depth it's going to help them, but they are happy to have the shoes.
Well, when you give shoes to these little children, and these will last a long time, they've got an adjustable strap so they can actually grow into them and get them a little bit larger than they need initially. And they'll last quite a while. When they see that love coming, and we're able to tell them it came because God put love in our heart, it opens the way for the missionaries. It's indescribable. Here's what I'd like to ask you to do. If you give $36, we got 10 pairs of shoes. You give $144, and we got 40 pairs of shoes. We're asking others to consider giving $1,000, and we're going to give smiles for Christmas and shoes. We're going to do cleft palate surgery and other facial surgeries that are desperately needed. So if you can help us, just dial the number, take your bank card, and make the gift God put in your heart. Surely you can give some shoes. It may be that you can give more than we even suggested. But it seems most of you watching could give 10 pairs of shoes, couldn't you? Even children do that. But would you please help us? You can go online, lifetoday.org, and make your gift. We're going to send the beautiful Christmas ornament. We'll send the bronze Christian missionary rescuing a boy that lived literally underground in the sewers. And that's an outreach that we've done for children to give them a home, too. But right now, we want you to help us give shoes. I pray you'll go to the phone or go online. Make the gift God puts on your heart.
Poverty is a killer, and because of it, children needlessly suffer, not only from a lack of food and clean water, but also from a lack of things we take for granted, such as a healthy smile or a simple pair of shoes. For most of these children, they've never owned a new pair of shoes. And while that may seem minor in the light of all their needs, walking with bare feet puts them at risk of life-threatening infections that could lead to crippling consequences, disease, and even death. By responding today, you can help Life immediately secure and begin shipping Christmas shoes to 200,000 children around the world, just in time for the holidays. Your gift of $36 will help provide 10 pairs of shoes. A gift of $72 will help provide 20 pairs. And a gift of $144 will help provide 40 pairs of Christmas shoes for children in need. In appreciation of your gift, be sure to request our 2013 Christmas shoe ornament. This beautifully crafted antiqued ornament is a unique reminder of your gift for Christmas shoes, a treasure to place on your tree each holiday season. Finally, please consider a gift of $1,000 or more to help provide over 275 pairs of shoes, or 2 children with corrective cleft palate surgeries. And you may request the limited edition 50th anniversary bronze sculpture, Christian, by renowned artist Robert Summers. Please call, write, or make your gift online today.
I am anxious to send you one of these beautiful, beautiful little Christmas ornaments because it's basically a testimony. You're going to have people ask you about it, maybe as much as anything you have on the tree. And then remember the beautiful bronze. Christian, this little fellow lived in the sewers of Romania, literally in the underground drainage. And our daughter, Rhonda, our oldest daughter, held him just like this. This particular girl is a missionary. We're sending that to those of you who will make a $1,000 gift. Remember to give smiles, surgeries for cleft palates, shoes and smiles for Christmas. Great gift, all in love. Thank you for watching. Thank all of you for being here with us.
Next week, award-winning author and editor-at-large for Christianity Today magazine, Philip Yancey, explores the question, where is God when it hurts? Life Today is made possible by the supporters of Life Outreach International. Your gift will be used exclusively for the exempt purposes of life. The ministry features specific outreaches as examples of the programs it supports and conducts. Gifts are considered to be without restriction as to use unless explicitly stipulated by the donor. The ministry is a member of the ECFA.